Hey everybody, this is Andrew from the Bag Guitars podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Fender Player 2 Telecaster. Now, as of the time of recording this video, these have been around for about 6 months now. I waited a while before checking these out, especially after the whole ordeal surrounding the Player 1 series and how a lot of players were very unhappy with a lot of the features that the Player 1 series had. So Fender claims to have resolved all those issues with the Player 2. So, as many people probably already know, being that this has been around for a while, they brought back the rosewood fretboards, so no more Pal Ferro. You get the rolled fingerboard edges, so that's a cool, addition. The Player Plus already had those, but Player 2 introduced that to the main line. Um, Other than that, we got some great new finishes. This is birch green. Looks lighter on video than it does in person. It's actually more of like a pistachio green, so it's pretty cool. So the thing with me and Telecasters, I want to talk about that today as well. So my first real guitar, I had, like the first act electrics and stuff growing up. But the first guitar I ever bought from an actual music store, it was a Johnson brand knockoff Telecaster. And my grandfather, he bought me my first guitar, my first acoustic. And it was a Johnson acoustic, so I figured, I see this in the store. I was really looking for a Strat style guitar, just because that's what I was familiar with seeing on TV and movies and everything. But I got to this music store and all the generic Strats that they had, they didn't have, Squires were about $20 to $30 out of my price range for being a 13, 14-year-old kid. So I was looking at these generic brands. They had STST, I think was the brand, STST, and they had Johnson. And Johnson was just lower priced than the second lowest level guitar that they had. So I ended up with a Johnson Telecaster, not by choice, but because that's what I could afford with my birthday and Christmas money that I took in. It was about $125, and I fell in love with that guitar. Thing about that is that was my main guitar up until I got my very first Fender, which happens to be my Blacktop Series Jaguar, which, as you can see, is very heavily modified. Get the Fender backplate on it. So we'll talk about this guitar in another video. But the Johnson, I had that for years, and I really loved the tonality that I could get out of it. I really learned how to play guitar on the Telecaster shape. But I've always, and I gotta be honest, I've always thought this is one of the ugliest shaped guitars out there. I'm more a fan of Strats, offsets, things like that. But I just can't get away from the sound. Now, in the last couple years, I've actually picked up a couple Telecasters. Talking about Stratocasters a minute ago. So I've picked up a couple Squires in the last couple years, and one was a Bullet Telecaster. And that one was all right. I mean, it was $129 when they were blowing them out to bring in the new Sonic series. And I modified that. I put a Firebird style mini humbucker in the neck position. So I played that for a while, and I had that set up for Nashville standard tuning. And then my dad, he actually found his neighbor was throwing away a 1998 Affinity Telecaster. And they told my dad, the wiring just doesn't work. We can't get this weird buzz to go away, so we're just not going to deal with it. We're going to put it out on the curb. So my dad took pictures, sent it over to me. I completely rebuilt the guitar from the ground up. The output jack wasn't even wired to anything. That's why they're getting the buzz. But that's my history as far as Telecasters. I've only played the 3 in my lifetime prior to this one. But I know the general sound of the Telecaster. But this is my first real big boy Tele. Now, why did I wait 6 months? Just the bad reviews for the Player 1. So initially when this one came out, the Player 2, you had players like John Cordy. He did, I think, 3 or 4 videos on this guitar alone, where he talked about the first initial setup right out of the box, and then he did his after he gigged with it, and then there was like a 3-month review or something on it. So his videos didn't give me the most hope for it. But then later on, Get Offset, Emily Harris, she put out a video, and that right there was like, okay, that's kind of how I would play it. That's a good general idea of what I'm looking for. And then Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum, he's been using his Player 2 in a lot of videos lately. So finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell off what I can, and I'm going to just jump on the Player 2. And I'm glad I did. I'm surprised I waited so long. So we're going to jump in, we're going to do some clips. I'm sure you guys know what a telly sounds like, but let's just do it for the sake of the video. As for my other two tellies, I have actually passed those on. I sent those out in the UPS a couple days ago to Justice over at Fuzzimp Effects. And he's going to be sending me over some pedals in return. So it's a cool little trade. As far as the rest of these guitars, I'm going to do some videos on some of my unique mods and everything. Got a lot of Fender style guitars for the most part, but pretty much every guitar here I've modded in some way. So we'll do videos on all those individually. I wish I had the other two tellies to include in this video. I should have shot those clips prior to doing this one. So I could just go over, the difference between what I had versus what I'm stepping up to. But I did that trade with Justice. I'm glad I did, and I'm looking forward to those pedals arriving. Gives me more stuff to make videos on. So let's just play around a little bit. So this is right out of the box. And right now I get a little bit of overdrive on. So one thing I will say is right out of the box, got this from Sweetwater. The pickups, they set the pickups up pretty low on the lower strings. So I will probably raise those up. Other than that, there's no defects or anything in the finish. Everything looks great. The usual Fender little, neck joint cracks that you usually would see in the finish. There's none of that. Neck feels smooth. Frets are all great. My only real complaint is, and I'll switch it over to a clean sound here, the high E. So I don't know how that's translating into the video. I don't know if that's being picked up, but I can hear it in the room. There's just that little droning sitar kind of sound out of the high E. So that's just a nut issue. I played at the first fret. The buzz is gone. So it's just a nut issue. That's an easy fix. I'll just take care of that. But I just wanted to get an honest sound, kind of out of the box. I've done nothing to this so far. Stock strings. I'm not sure if they put 10s on this or 9s maybe. Feels more like 10s. But we're just jump in. Let's do some neck pickup, little, jamming. So, not really my playing style usually, but I do play a lot of like lo-fi, garage rock kind of stuff, so we'll hit it with a little bit of vibrato and just... So the intensity on that is a little too much. I gotta turn that down. My son likes to come in here and play around with the pedal knobs. Anyway, so some chorus. So standard Tele neck pickup. I believe these are the same pickups from the Player 1 series. I don't think they've upgraded those or anything. They're definitely not the noiseless that you get in the Player Plus. Bit of drive just to that neck pickup. Sounds great to me. It's got that classic, almost like Jimmy Page style lead sound. Get my drive from the Keeley Super Bass, which I did a video on a little while back. Getting reverb from the Keeley Caverns. Running through classic blackface style Fender amp. We're just doing that through Logic right now. Don't have the actual amp set up right now. It needs a little bit of maintenance. That sounds great to me. I mean, I love that sound. But we're gonna kick it back to a clean, hit it with a little compressor, and we're just gonna get some, cool funk out of the middle position. So I did swap over to the bridge pickup at the end, and that signature sound that you get from a Tele bridge pickup. Nice and, crisp and kind of wacky, but, definitely not brittle like you would get from a Strat bridge pickup. You definitely get like a more full tone. That back on for a second. Let's hit it with a little bit of delay. Cool. I mean, it sounds great to me. So those are all three pickups. I will say another thing I have noticed right out of the box with this is there almost seems to be like a shielding issue. So I don't know if you could hear it through the recording on the video, but mostly on the middle position. So I'll play a little bit. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Turn off all the effects. So I don't know if I haven't opened it up yet. I haven't looked under the pick guard, but it seems like there's almost a bit of a shielding issue. So it's not really a full-on ground buzz, but it's when I'm picking, if I'm playing a little bit maybe too aggressively. It's just kind of that like, clicking that you would get from essentially like a grounding issue under the pick guard, just where everything gets picked up kind of like a little bit of static in the signal. Not super noticeable. If it doesn't show up on the recording, that's even better because then I know I can comfortably record songs with this thing. I've had the same issue with the Squire Rascal bass. That gets a lot of buzz, and that's just playing, regular plucked notes. I get a lot of that weird shielding issue. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about with that. It's not a constant ground buzz. It's just an intermittent thing that comes and goes. Depending on which pickup you're on, it almost sounds like maybe it could be from the switch itself, just rattling around a little bit while I'm playing. So I'll check that out more in depth after the video. But yeah, like I said, I just wanted to check out what it's like just directly out of the box. So the output seems really low on this, but I think it's just because they had the pickup set way too low. But Sweetwater, they did their inspection. Everything does seem pretty clear and checked out on this thing. So, I wish I could get an accurate representation of that color. Yeah, like right there. So it looks so much lighter on video and in photos. So if you are interested in buying the birch green, I believe they have several of the different models in the lineup in this color. I would go off of the images on the Fender website, I believe the Guitar Center website, other sites like Sweetwater. I noticed a few other retailers. It looks almost like surf green, but it is definitely more of, like I said, that pistachio kind of color. So we'll just take it out with a little jam. Like I said, I'll finish. I'm sure a lot of my demos and stuff that I'm going to do moving forward, I'm going to use this guitar. It's funny because I never thought I would be a Telecaster guy. This is my fourth Telecaster. So, even just right now, I'm running my thumb over this right here on the nut. Don't know if that'll show up. Just right there, there is just a slight bit of overhang on the nut. But that's just me nitpicking at this point. It's a great guitar. Now, for me, this is kind of a weird step up because when I started playing guitar, you could buy a brand new Telecaster for like $450, made in Mexico, when they had the Mexican Standard line. So that's how I got. I already held it up, but the Jaguar. This thing, I got it brand new. I'm the only owner of this guitar. Bought it in 2010 when it first came out, Blacktop series. This was $450 brand new in 2010. These made in Mexico Strats. You used to be able to get a made in Mexico Strat for about $400, $450, $500 brand new. So when they phased out this lineup, pandemic hit and everything, they had to raise prices. That's when this Player Series came out, and suddenly they're $799 for a Fender, for the lowest level Fender. So that's why I've kind of been sticking to Squier for the most part for the last 4 or 5 years. I do have my fair share of Fender Squiers. I've got other brands. Got the Ibanez up here. Got another Ibanez on the rack. My wife's Pacifica is back over here. But I've been sticking to Squiers for the most part because they're so easy to mod, so you can upgrade for cheap. But I think it was just finally time to step up to a big boy guitar. So I won't be surprised if this actually becomes my main guitar for a little while. Especially doing these demo vids because it gets you a great, just overall, well-rounded sound, as anyone would expect from a Telecaster. But it's kind of just a shock to me, how much time has passed since I started playing to see, oh, these were $400 to now it's $800 for the lowest level model, but the quality is way better than they were back in 2008, 2009. You get a lot more features. You got better bridges on them. I know a lot of people like the 3-post brass saddle bridges. I don't have a problem with this. Like, this is great. So we'll just take it out in a little jam, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright everybody, thanks for watching, and please like the video, subscribe to it, tell us what you think about the Player 2. If you've checked it out yet. If you haven't, I would recommend, go to your local shop, checking a few out, and seeing which one you like the best. We do have the weekly show here on the channel, the Bad Guitars Podcast. We would really like your support if you could follow and subscribe for that, and we are on other platforms. We usually post every Saturday. So if you want to check us out, we really would appreciate your support. When we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're thinking about doing a giveaway. So, we're pretty far off from that, but if we could, Other than that, thanks for checking out the video. Like I said, just player 2, don't sleep on it. All right, we'll see you next time.